Since the Helix came out in 2015, we've seen a bunch of newer, more powerful, supposedly, maybe even better sounding units come out. And I had a question from a chap called Warren who asked, did I think that I could maybe build my Cloudburst preset, add in a gain preset, or did I think that Helix wouldn't have enough power to do that? So that was kind of the starting off point for this video. And the answer was basically, I could do anything I need really with the Helix. I'm not seeing any real power deficit. Let's explore in this video some things that I think maybe people are looking for, what's missing from the Helix still, but ultimately, does it still hold up? The answer is yes.
This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses.
So Warren was asking, could I combine a couple of different presets, essentially? So I've got my Cloudburst preset here, or I would do if I was plugging it in. Do you know what I mean? It's good, isn't it? Guitar in. So. Can turn that off. Got a freeze over here. Then he asked, could I add like a lead preset to that, or lead, like my normal. See, that's like a really pretty powerful preset that I think even the most powerful modelers of today, I don't think I could do this sort of thing on Tone Master Pro particularly easily. I think the Quad Cortex probably manage it just about, but not super easily either. And Axvex, again, I think I could manage it on these things, definitely not on the Hot One Ampero stuff. So it's kind of stacking up still pretty well. I've still got a load of other pedals that I could use for bits and pieces. I think I'm about at the limit of DSP, but at the same time, you know, what else would I be adding to this that was not going to kind of just turn into a total wash of random noise? cool stuff, I think. Now, I think the main thing to say is that I think a lot of people are skeptical about digital modelling in general, and I don't think that is particularly necessarily solved by jumping to other modelers. I think there is definitely like a tube amp digital modelling divide. Some people sit in the middle or are happy using both. But I think since we've seen the Helix improvements over the years, that it now actually sits really reasonably well in comparisons with the more up-to-date units, whether you see like the ToneMaster Pro or Quad Cortex or, you know, Fractal stuff in comparisons. Certainly on things like aliasing, it's right next to sort of Fractal in terms of the least digital artifacts now, outperforms Quad Cortex in that regard. So yeah, there are other units that in some cases people are going to prefer the sound of. I ultimately think that with most digital modelers, you can probably, hopefully, find your sound, particularly with the cab updates and all that sort of stuff. So what is missing from the Helix? So there are a couple of things. So even Hot Tone now have their tone catch thing. So you've got basically almost everyone in the modelling game. I think Moore can do it. I guess Fender can't do it yet. Quad Cortex obviously has got their capture technology. Kemper, Tonex. A lot of the companies now are offering some sort of tone capture profiling feature. Line 6 is still not in that game, and I think even particularly with the advent of NAMM, which is open source, I think that's the word for it, I think there are a bunch of people that would like this sort of technology in the Helix. So let me know if you're one of those guys. That's one major blind spot, I think, in the Helix world. That could bring in a bunch of people. You know, if you've got your tube amps, you stick a mic in front of it, you know, you've got a mic input already. Basically, a lot of the juice that is there ready to be squeezed. Doesn't work as an analogy. The other thing going on with the Helix is, I think, whilst it is probably about your size of your average pedal board, I would imagine, you know, I've seen people with much bigger pedal boards, I've seen people with smaller pedal boards. This seems to me about the size of a pedal board. That the trend has been towards slightly smaller units. So like the Fractal FM9 is a bit smaller, Boss GX100 is smaller, Boss GX10 is smaller again. Quad Cortex is a really, really neat size for what is a very powerful unit. The Helix now ends up looking, I think, on the face of it, fairly big. And certainly for a fly rig and stuff like that, it might be a little large for the kind of, you know, chuck in your suitcase sort of vibe. But for the average kind of gig, I think this is about perfect. Like, you don't have these buttons too close together. The scribble strips are super, super, super premium feeling and super, super premium. Like, it's the best gigging experience I've found when you've got scribble strips. I really missed those when I tried gigging the Quad Cortex, and particularly in the Helix world where the foot switches are quite flexible, it does help to have a label kind of just nudging you, right, that's what's on here. Whereas on the Quad Cortex, it's a little bit, I guess you'd get there in terms of muscle memory, but, you know, when the screen and switches don't necessarily correlate super well, I found that a little bit less easy to navigate than the Helix. My other question is, so I think that Cliff from Fractal basically said that there is the successor to the chips that Line 6 use, so that is available now. So there is a chance that Line 6 could be working on something. I'm not privy to any of that information. But would you just want a more powerful version of the Helix, or would you want something different? So for me personally, building presets on the Helix, I'm very rarely running into a situation where it's like, well, I can't add anything more. And then if I am running into that situation, it's normally something like this preset that you're seeing me using here, which is the Cloudburst lead preset, which will go into the freeze folder if you're looking for it on Gumroad. There are a few folders now. There's like the general folder, there's the freeze expression folder, which has that freeze stuff. There's pads, which have the chords that can hold for you to play under. And then there's the amp in the room tones. In any case, yeah, for the normal kind of gigging scenario, I very rarely kind of bump into a scenario where it's like, well, I need loads more effects here. It's kind of like, this is so capable, so much more capable than the average pedal board, that I feel like the necessary thing with most modelers, so like the Fender ToneMaster Pro can't do more than this in one preset. The Quad Cortex can just about, so you can do like 4 amps and you could get some other stuff, but the foot switching kind of limits that. The FM9 and the Axe FX, you can only have 2 amps, whereas the Helix, the DSP is kind of free flowing. So in a lot of ways, the Helix could be seen as, you know, more powerful in terms of like how much stuff you could get into a preset. The one area as well where it's still kind of tricky is with the pitch effects, because if you don't know, the Digitech team basically made the poly effects in the Helix, and those tend to take up about 40 to 50% of a processing chip. You've got 2 processing chips. You've got a processing chip for path 1 and 2, and a processing chip for path 3 and 4. Basically, a poly capo or a 12-string, like I'm using in this preset, will take up essentially half of the processing power of one of those chips. So that is maybe one area where the future of the Helix or whatever, if they just naturally has more power, you could kind of Helix version 2, whatever it's going to be, just be running the same sort of sounds, which I'm guessing they're going to be using the same thing. Like the Line 6 Helix, when it first came out, used stuff from like legacy products, right? So I'm guessing it's just going to be a free-flowing thing whenever this does eventually happen. Are you jonesing for this, or are you happy with your Helix? I still see people are buying Helixes even to this day. I get emails from folks and stuff, which is really interesting to me that people are still buying a product from 2015. And it does go to show that if you can keep these products updated, that there is quite a long life cycle there. I think we're kind of good, right? And that's probably true across most of the modelers. I don't think that there's much need for more power. And that was one of the big things with the Quad Cortex. It's like, this is the most powerful unit ever. Like, run a whole band through it without breaking a sweat. It turns out that really not many people are actually using it like that. But do we need more power, or are we good at the moment? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As I say, if you want this preset, it's in the expression folder. It's only going to work on the Helix. But that's another point. If you could get like the full power of a Helix into a smaller unit like the HX Stomp XL, or some sort of midpoint between the full Helix and the HX Stomp, I think that's like a bit of a gap in the product market. Maybe. Let me know your thoughts.